Guys, I'm super excited to introduce Amber Palmer. Amber is the owner operator of Steep Ridge Trails LLC. She is an equestrian that does packing. And when I read that in her bio, I had to read it twice because I was like, wait, did she just write packing? Like, are we talking about luggage or are we talking about like horse packing? And she actually horse packs, which I don't know any women that do packing. I was taught in like summer camp how to tie some knots and do all that. Have I ever used it? I've never used it. I've never ever had to go with horse diamond knots and things like that. But Amber is a pro at equine packing, and we're going to dive into that a little bit just because it's such a rarity. It's a dying art. Most people go in their RV and just go camping, glamping, more glamping than packing. And Amber also is an equine certified first aid instructor. And the reason I met Amber is I saw her ad cross my feed and I was looking at that going, what is this eye piece? You know, I was super fascinated by this big, it almost looked like a pool noodle eyepiece on this horse's face. And I was like, I've never seen that. What is that? So she caught my attention off her ad. And so I kind of reached out to her. Plus, horses are always hurting themselves. And I was like, what? You know, my mind was spinning. I was like, what does it take to be an equine certified practitioner or first aid practitioner or whatever you are? I want to know more. So I reached out to her and asked if she would be a guest. And she's actually, I get to be your first interviewer, which I cannot believe because when I posted that ad, it was shared by a ton of people. Everybody knew Amber. I was like, how come I don't know Amber? Everybody else knows Amber. So Amber, I do now. Thank you for hopping on live with us today. It's such an honor. Please tell us, where are you located? You have children, I believe, and talk to us about packing first.
Yeah. So I was born and raised in Sandpoint, Idaho. And currently I am based out of Republic, Washington, which is in the middle of Washington State. We're roughly 40 minutes south of Canada. So we're kind of way up there. And when we moved here about 10 years ago, it was the first time that like we've had enough property. And being the horse crazy kid that I was in my younger years, when we closed on the property, I told my husband, I'm getting a horse. Like, this is happening now. Like, we have the property and it's happening. And the poor guy had no idea what he was getting into when he married me. And he was already fully committed. We had 2 kids. So
there was no way out. You waited. You were like, I've got him.
Exactly. I had him in my clutches and I was like, and now we're a horse family. Look how that worked out. So yeah, I started out with 1 horse and it, you know, obviously that expanded. So I have 6.5 horses now, if you count the mini. And it started out with Tommy Girl, which is my main riding horse. And I met a local girlfriend here named Amy, and we did trail riding together. And she kind of said, well, would you want to try camping with the horses? And I thought, yeah, I never even thought of that before. It seems fun. I like camping. I like horses, and why not combine it? So we did a couple kind of base camp trailhead extended weekend things. And then it kind of evolved into like, well, maybe you want to do a pack trip. And I thought, yeah, why not? I mean, I like riding horses. I like camping with them. Like, yeah, why not? Just extend that long weekend and go a little more remote. And the barrier that we kind of encountered was unless we wanted to spend a large sum of money to go to like a pack clinic for like 1 to 2 weeks, there really wasn't a specific area to get the information that we needed to know on how to pack. So we kind of combined information from a lot of different sources. And that's how we did our first pack trip. So it was definitely a trial and error excursion. I think our first pack trip we were supposed to be in for a week and we came out in 5 days. But we learned a lot and we tweaked our skills, and I've been packing ever since. And subsequently, I teach an easy pack clinic now that can be done in a day for people that want to camp and kind of learn the bare bones basics of packing so that they can kind of get out there and try camping or packing with their horses. So that's not such a difficult place to get information.
So Amber, if you're gone for 10 days, how do you charge your cell phone?
So I take a solar powered battery pack.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I recharge it before I leave, and usually that'll get me at least through 5 days, and I can charge my cell phone and my Garmin InReach, which is a satellite communicator that I take out. And then whatever juice, gets used up, if I'm diligent about setting it out in the sun, then it'll recharge itself. It's amazing, the camping technology that they have nowadays. So,
well, that's what I was like, wow, this is like so glampy on
yeah.
That's awesome. That's more my style, I think. I don't know if I'd love going out for 10 days. So you've got one horse and then you've got your pack horse. And then do you hunt or do you just bring prepackaged foods? What do you do?
We usually bring prepackaged foods. I will take out my fly fishing pole. I pack that. I'm new to fly fishing. I am not great at it, but occasionally I am successful at catching a fish. And so then we will cook fish while we're out there, but most of it is prepackaged food. So, and I do hunt, but not necessarily on the pack trips. I don't usually take a long rifle out with me.
So you're not that rustic. You're not like wrapped up in skins or anything crazy like that.
No. Actually, I really like to combine a lot of backpacking technology in with my horse packing, because backpackers have really perfected the ability to get items into very small spaces, as well as be extremely lightweight. And so a lot of the equipment that I take out is actually for backpackers.
That's so cool. That's
Yeah.
amazing. So how did you get involved in equine first aid and being a certified instructor? Was it your packing?
Yeah, it ultimately was. So I was already working, teaching our local Job Corps students an equine program. But I saw an ad for the equine first aid and advanced wilderness first aid class in Salmon, Idaho. And I thought, I should take this because I'm going out in the boonies. I think the farthest from a trailhead I've been has been about 55 miles roughly in there. So I thought, well, this would be a good thing since I'm going out in the woods. And so I took the class as a student so that I could have solid first aid skills for my horses when I was out in the wilderness. And at the end of the weekend, they said, we really need instructors in the US. So if anybody's interested, let us know. And it just really fell in line with what I was already doing, and connected with the education pieces that I really enjoy, as well as the equine pieces. And so it just kind of fell into my lap organically. And so I've been doing it ever since. I've been doing it for about 4 years now.
So 4 years isn't that long. And I'm having some really weird reverb. Sorry about that, you guys.
Oh, that's okay. We have a rainstorm that just came in, so it might be on my end.
Okay. If you guys watching on Facebook want to make a comment if the sound is horrible. Yeah, Dodie's joking about you being wrapped up in skins. She can actually see you doing that.
I do wear chinks, which are leather, so that is the skin, but not hide on hair skin.
Okay. So the company that you learned your first aid from, you work for now?
Well, I'm an
Is that
independent
how that is?
contractor. Yep. So
Okay.
all of our instructors have their own businesses and work as independent contractors for Equa First Aid USA. Yep.
Okay.
So
And it's just horses. It's not dogs and cats. They don't have a dog and cat division.
not cats. They do have a dog division. I'm not certified to teach canine, but we do have a few instructors in the US that are certified to teach canine at this juncture.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So Amber, if we went out and got certified, what does that mean?
So in order to become certified, our instructors have to complete 3 days of training. Um, Generally and ideally, it's in 3 days of in-person training, but we can kind of do a hybrid training where they practice hands-on skills with the instructor in person. And then if they need to travel back home or vice versa, they can complete the additional hours online. So we have some instructors that kind of do 50-50 and then some that do all of it in person. But basically the training is going to consist of making sure that that instructor has adequate equine knowledge, that they're going to be able to communicate the course material effectively to their students, that they're going to be able to execute the hands-on scenarios effectively for a class, and that they're going to follow the course material as Equa First Aid has intended. And so that's kind of the goals of the training process. After that, their only teaching requirement is that they teach 2 full-day classes a year. So there's a lot of flexibility. We have some instructors that only do a handful of classes a year. I teach more full-time. Other instructors might teach half the year. So there's a lot of flexibility so that they can teach as little or as much as they want.
So Amber, do you make a living doing this?
I do, yes.
That's awesome. That's so exciting.
Yeah, I was excited about it
Congratulations.
too.
You're living your dream. That's
I
fantastic.
am, yeah. It took me about a year and a half before. So I was working as a rural route carrier for the post office. And so I kind of kept that gig for a little while, about a year and a half, into being a certified instructor. And then I was able to quit that job and do this more.
So who takes your courses? Are they just horse lovers, horse owners? Are they therapists? Who are they?
All of the above. So I've had students that are in the process of setting up their property for a horse. So they don't even own a horse yet. They just know they want one. So I've had students take the class because they're trying to prepare themselves. I've had students that have been involved with horses their whole life, but those horses have been boarded at a barn and now they're going to be bringing them home. And so they're taking it because there's not going to be a barn manager there to help them with things. We've had veterinarians take our class for
That's amazing.
refreshers. We've had vet techs take the class as their continuing education. Our courses are certified and approved continuing education for EGALA, PATH International, and IAABC practitioners. So those particular therapy involved practitioners can take the courses and count it as continuing education for those entities as well.
So I have some members that are PATH certified, so they could actually take your course and that will count towards their continuing education. That's so cool.
Correct.
So do you have to be invited to a property and then teach it from there? How do you get your venues?
Yeah, so I personally, at this juncture, usually am contacted by host locations that want to invite me to their barn to teach the courses. We have some instructors that primarily just want to work out of their personal barns. So again, there's a lot of leeway in how individual instructors want to run it. But generally, we're contacted by a host location. We'll talk about the courses that that host location wants to have at their facility. And then that host, in conjunction with myself, will market the classes. Generally, I shoot for 10 to 15 students per day, and it sometimes the hosts want to handle registrations, and then sometimes I handle it. So it just kind of depends on the situation and what works best for the host.
I have a bee chasing
You're getting
me.
attacked.
I had some flies and I threw some geranium around, and so now it's attracting the bees. So if I bolt, you guys, Amber, just keep talking.
Okay.
Or people ask questions or something. So you do have different classes you offer then?
Yes. So usually the majority of our instructors are trained to teach our equine first aid classes. And then a handful of them and myself are also certified to teach additional equine first aid classes, which is disaster planning and emergency preparedness, safe trailering, and then livestock handling for first responders.
Oh, so you do cattle, sheep, goats,
Yep.
pig, all
Yep.
of it.
Chickens,
Chicken,
alpacas.
emus.
Yeah. Emus. We haven't had an emu. I have not had an emu altercation. I hear they can be rather wily.
I know. Absolutely. That's so interesting. So you're just not an equine specialist in that regards, is you have like this crazy diverse background.
I do. Yeah. And all of our instructors, none of us have the exact same backgrounds. A lot of them are going to have different strengths in different areas. So all of our instructors come from a diverse equine knowledge.
So I love the idea of disaster, because I feel like living in California, we have a lot of fires now, unfortunately, and we have to be ready. So the idea of that, it's like, do you write the names on the hooves? Do you kick them loose and just wish them good luck? Like you play it in your head. What are you going to grab? How quick can you get loaded? Better safe than sorry. Like I'm personally the first one to evacuate all the time because I don't want to be sitting in traffic. There was that cool California, or not cool, but it was towards Redding, I think, Paradise, where people were all sitting on the road in a roadblock and the fire consumed them. And so I don't want to be that person stuck with horses in a trailer. I've been a first responder on some fires where it was so hot that my aluminum trailer started to melt. And so I don't ever want to be in that position. Absolutely. Yeah. So
especially when you have livestock and a farm or a ranch, when they very first give you that notification that you need to be alert because there's a fire in your area. I mean, the reality of it is if you're not evacuating at that point and you're waiting until they actually tell you to evacuate, you might not be able to get all of your animals out in time. And then you're going to, be in a true situation.
Exactly. I'm first. I go.
Good.
I'm like, I'm leaving now. I'm going to go take a vacation somewhere. I'm going to drop my horses at a friend's house that's in not the fire zone, and I'm out. And
that's a good choice.
Absolutely. I don't like drama unless I'm more than happy to be a first responder. I have no problem with that. I just don't want to be stuck because I have first responded on some fires, and it's the people that didn't evacuate.
Yeah. And that's everybody's individual choice. I've had 2 instances at my property where a couple years ago a fire started right at the end of my driveway, and I live on a ridge, and so the fire was coming up the hill at my guest cabin where my dad lives. And so it at that juncture, I loaded my kids up in the car and parked at the driveway, and I said they needed to stay there. And then I chose to go fight the fire with my dad until crews showed up. because if I had evacuated, my house would have burnt down.
Right.
And at that time, like the fire was not so large that it wasn't manageable with the two of us. And so we stayed. Now, if I had a forest fire ripping down on me, I would, probably handle that situation differently than how I did a couple years ago. But, it's all situational. And how's the wind blowing if you're in that type of a scenario? And yeah.
Yeah. So what else do you want to talk about? Do you have any crazy case studies or like memorable first aid events that you have like been so grateful that you had these skills?
Yeah, actually, just 2 weekends ago, I taught equine first aid down at a barn in southern Idaho. And we did the basic and the advanced class. And then Monday, I taught a pack class at that same barn. And at the end of the day, the owner wanted me to go look at her pack equipment on her donkey to make sure it fit him right. And he had a little moment and he snagged himself in an unsafe location, and he ended up cutting the lateral artery of the back of his hoof and started bleeding out in their driveway. And I was so thankful that the 4 people on hand had just taken the equine first aid classes, because everybody stayed very calm and everybody knew exactly what they needed to do. And it took us 3 layers of a compression bandage to get his bleeding under control before the vet got there to get him stitched up. But that was probably the most recent thing. Usually owners wait for me to go home before their animals get injured, and I prefer it that way, for the record. But that was probably like the biggest, most pertinent incident to happen while I've been on scene, and also probably the most accurate testimony to the classes themselves.
That's so
Just
amazing.
based off of how everybody conducted themselves. So A pluses all around for all of those students. They did an awesome job, and it was extremely nerve-wracking for us as well as the donkey that was injured. So I was really, really proud of my students and how they handled the situation. They did a really great job.
That's so exciting.
Yeah.
So you realized that you fully equipped them and they were on point.
Yes, they were.
Now, do you sell a first aid kit with your first aid class?
I do. I put together equine first aid kits. I have some kind of standard ones that I sell on my website and that I bring to the clinics for students to purchase. And then sometimes I'll have students specifically ask me to put kits together for them. So I taught at a barn that was predominantly all minis. And so she asked me to put together a kit that was, mini sized. So I kind of revamped the kits and made sure that everything would fit the animals that she had on her property.
So you do have pre-made kits, but you also have, so can you share with us what's in your kit? Share with me your 3 highest priority things to be in a first aid kit.
Okay. So for me, something that I am going to have in all of my kits is going to be saline solution, because I think it's one of the top-notch things for cleaning any kind of ding and dent out of. I'm also going to have some kind of a non-adherent pad. I'm going to have some form of padding. If it's not in my kit, I usually have something else with me that can serve as an absorbable soft layer for my bandage, stretch gauze, and vet wrap. So those are, I guess that's 5 things I gave you. So basically the main things, the main chunks of cleaning out a wound and then properly protecting it and covering it is what is the primary goal for my first aid kits. There's awesome. A lot of extras that I, have, but like those are the main things that I don't want to leave home without.
I'm curious, the veterinarians that take your class, do they learn something exciting?
So sometimes the vets, they're getting bandaging experience, because a lot of vets don't do a ton of bandaging. They have vet techs that do it. So they oftentimes enjoy the more challenging bandaging scenarios that we go through. Some of them are taking the class not to really learn, but to see if they want to refer their clients to take a course. And then sometimes they'll just learn different tricks and tips and tricks that they don't use themselves. So, how much they actually learn, I don't know. What brings information to their forefront of their memory is probably more realistic. So all of our material are written by our team of veterinarians and equine professionals. So, it's nothing that a vet doesn't know, but everybody's going to have their own special tweaks to different scenarios.
So what is that eye wrap that I saw?
I believe you're referring to the eye donut, which
Yes.
Is a way to protect your horse's eye if it's been injured. And it's like one of the funnest scenarios that we do. I think in the all-day basic class, the students learn how to make eye donuts, why they're applicable, and then we attach them to our patient horses. And it's always a fun part of the day. And usually the horses are pretty accepting of it. I haven't had one that flat out refuses it, knock on wood.
And when you teach this class, when people are done with it, they get certified. Are they insured by your company? Or I like being an equine body worker, I go and work on people's horses, but if they got in an accident, would that be something that I should offer as like, hey, I'm a certified equine first aid specialist. I can wrap that for you, or is that a liability for me?
That's not how my insurance is set up. So my insurance covers me for the day of the clinic for any mishaps that might happen during the clinic date. So and varying instructors, they're going to have different policies for what they're doing with their individual business. So I can't really answer that. We're not a horse ambulance. So although being first aid instructors, obviously if there's an injured horse and we're the ones that know how to do it, we're going to take care of it. But we're not going to, I don't know of any instructors that advertise themselves in that fashion.
That's what I was wondering.
Yeah.
So mostly for home use, help for clients if you're on the job doing something totally different.
Yeah. And the courses are set up so that horse owners know how to properly triage their horses, and so that they can be appropriate first responders for their horses. We also really want to encourage horse owners to have good working relationships with their veterinarians, to keep a consistent relationship with that vet. So get your horses their annual checkups so that the vet is not only familiar with your horse, but also familiar with you and your individual knowledge base and what you are and aren't comfortable doing. And we also want horse owners to know the information that is helpful to a vet when there's an emergency. So if you're calling your vet up, what information do they want to know over the phone so that they can prepare for you to haul in or prepare for a farm call to come out to you? So that's kind of the goal of the courses, is really just to arm horse owners with the knowledge and the know-how of how to properly triage their horse in an emergency.
That's so awesome. I think it's really valuable what you are teaching. And the fact that this horse was bleeding, or donkey was bleeding out. Like, what if you weren't there?
Yeah, he would have died.
Yeah.
It was, we may or may not have caught it in time. It was scary, but also good that he did it right in front of us so that we could stop it right away. So, yeah.
Very cool. Is there anything else that we're missing? Like, I want to think that you should create a course. Like, I think you ought to have like this course or situation where people can do this online short course and then attend your in person, because so many people are limited. There's not that many instructors, right?
Right. There's about, I just did a count a couple weeks ago, and right now we're sitting at about 52 instructors in the whole US. Um, so there's still not a ton of us. And like I said, not all of them teach regularly. So that's something to factor in as well. So we do offer the theory only portions of our basic and our advanced class over Zoom. Basically, the students pay half of the cost of the full day clinic. They get sent a manual that will go over during the Zoom class, and I'll cover all the theory only portions. And then at any time, if there's another Equa First Aid instructor teaching a clinic in their area, they can take the hands-on portions of the class for the other half. So
That's great.
And we kind of started that during COVID, when a lot of people were restricted from getting in groups, and there were a lot of people that really needed some help with first aid, especially given that vets weren't going out or weren't able to go out pre-COVID. So, yep, we started the Zoom classes and have continued that program so far.
Well, and that is so valuable because it did get crazy over COVID, and it still is for the dogs and cats. People are still sitting in their car for first aid emergency calls, and there's still, at least here in California, there's still at least a 5 to 7 hour wait to get your pet to be seen in an emergency, which is absolutely ridiculous. And so I do preach prevention and how to handle crisis situations using homeopathy. So you can take a level 10 issue maybe down to a level 5 or 2 while you're waiting for your veterinarian. But you're more clinical, allopathic type approach, correct? You're not using anything necessarily holistic.
Not so much holistic. We do teach Sulis, which is, for lack of a better term, horse yoga. So actually, for our all-day basic class, the whole first half of the day talks about preventative, which includes knowing your horse's normal vital sign ranges. In addition, we cover the Sulis stretches, which is a way to identify and source pain in your horse, as well as alleviate pain through a series of stretches. So maybe not quite to the extent that you're referring to, but we do teach heavily on preventative, as well as the Sulis or horse yoga, if you want to call it that.
Oh, is that like your carrot stretches, or just?
Yes, there are some carrot stretches, but we do have additional stretches that involve back stretches and legs.
And do you recommend doing those every day, or
every
just
day, twice a day, as often as you want to do it?
as a therapy, but initially you're using it as an assessment?
It's in conjunction. So like, I would definitely use the Sulis like after a hard day's ride. Or let's say my horse spooked and I know I landed funky on her, I would absolutely use Sulis as a tool to see if my horse had gotten tweaked. And then if I couldn't alleviate it through the stretches, then I would know to call in, my equine massage therapist or chiropractor. But in general, as a routine, they're great stretches to do before and after your ride, just to get your horse warmed up.
I love that. So I never thought about doing stretches after a ride to see if you've harmed them. That's so fascinating. I've never thought of that. I feel so stupid. Oh my gosh.
Well, I personally love to do the stretches after. I don't always do it. I'm not going to fib and say I do it after every single ride. but I definitely will do it if there's been something along the ride. Maybe it's just been a really hard trail. Yeah. And I know that my horse was really working. And I definitely do it if, for instance, when I start packing in the spring and I'm ponying my pack horse, I know I'm not going to be as balanced of a rider because I'm tuning up my pack horse and reminding her of what her job is. So that's going to offset my weight. I'm not going to be riding as great as I normally would. And so I always do the Sula stretches after that, in anticipation that my riding horse might be a little bit kinked up just from me not having as good of a seat as I usually do.
Amber, how different are they? Like, are they that different before a ride and after a ride? Like, my mind is spinning right now.
Oh, well, I definitely get more mobility after a ride from the stretches than I do prior. So obviously, like before a ride, they're kind of cold stretches. So they're not going to be as limber and as flexible versus, at the end of the day, generally my horse will get into the stretches more because she realizes that, oh, I'm triggering a stretch and that actually feels really good. And then also because she's warmed up, I usually get a little bit more flexibility out of her at the end of the day as opposed to the beginning.
So when Amber talks about ponying her pack horse, you're always in kind of a twisted position, correct? Unless you're doing like a dally on your horn.
You never dally on your horn. Don't do that. But sometimes if I need a free hand, I'll run my lead rope like through my belt loop so that if she has a meltdown, the rope will fall away, but it's not actually ever attached to me or the horn. Yeah, so usually, especially in the beginning, if there's really tasty grass and my pack horse thinks she wants to snack, I am going to have a little bit more of a twist to my seat. After I've been ponying, and everybody remembers what their jobs are, I can sit more naturally forward facing and have a little bit better position. But your pack horse can still do stuff that causes you to tweak your seat randomly throughout the day. It's usually grass.
So I'm stuck on this topic. So if you have twisted and you have landed kind of funny, or maybe your horse slipped or tripped, do you see a significant change in your stretches when you finish at the end of your ride? Have you noticed that?
So I notice if she has been tweaked, just like how if we tweak our body and we stretch out, how we might linger or lean into that stretch a little bit more. So usually if I'm paying attention to her when I do the stretches, she will tell me what she needs more assistance with.
I think that's great. I love that. Plus, you're doing it fairly often, so you know what her norm is.
Yeah.
And what it's not. Very cool. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
That's such a cool hack.
I would have to say that the Sula stretches are probably one of the hands down class favorites when we teach that in the courses, where I've had so many students go, I didn't know we were going to do stretches and I love these. And then when I touch base with my students, years later, the Sulas is something that that overflows. They are still doing it. They do it regularly, and it's something that they really enjoy doing with their horses, and their horses really dig it.
I love that you say the word dig. I say it too. Oh my gosh. How many people have you taught, do you think?
I do not have a clue.
The reason why I'm asking is because it blew up in my post, when I put the post that we're going to be doing this interview, it got shared so many times and so many people were like, I love Amber. And I'm like, why don't I know Amber? Like everybody seems to know you, but me. So I was just like, what's up with Amber?
Yeah, I don't, I would probably say I really don't have a clue because the class sizes do vary. I don't know. I would probably say that the majority of my Facebook followers are students. And I don't know where I'm sitting at with that, but yeah,
Cool.
75% of my Facebook followers are probably students or are signed up for a class.
Well, you've definitely gotten around in California, apparently. I mean, one lady even texted me this morning who I've never met, but we've chatted on the phone a little bit about her horse for homeopathy and holistic stuff, but I've never met this woman. And she's like, you'll love Amber today. I'm like, I don't even know you. She's like, Amber comes to my house. I'm like, I've never been to your house.
Yeah.
So I thought it was so funny.
Yeah.
Sherry keeps getting knocked off. Oh, I'm so sorry, Sherry. Martha's asking about how do they join? What's the info?
Yeah. So if you're interested in becoming an instructor, then go to my website, which is steepridgetrails.com. And there is a career opportunity tab, which has like frequently asked questions and will kind of give you the ins and outs of the process. There's also an instructor application on that website that you would complete, at which point I would give you a jingle and we would chat on the phone and just kind of make sure that we're a good fit for each other as far as Equa First Aid is concerned, and what your business goals are. And then we set up training. So
now, what if it's just a horse owner who wants to take the class? But
yeah.
where do we go for that?
So on my website, I have the clinics that are on my schedule currently. So you could certainly attend a pre-existing clinic on my schedule. If there's not one on my schedule, and you are interested in hosting a class, or you know of a barn that wants to host, then just shoot me an email or give me a call and we can facilitate on getting that set up. If
What
for some
do you
reason
need? What do you need for a host?
Oh, okay. So the host location, the primary thing, because I'm traveling, is I need patient horses that can tolerate students taking their vital signs, doing horse stretches with them, as well as doing bandaging scenarios. Now, depending on the horse, we can kind of tweak varying scenarios to the comfort level of the horse. And I know that sometimes horses are okay with something 1 minute and then not the next. So we kind of roll with their temperaments as far as that's concerned. But I definitely need patient horses. The all day long classes are 50-50 split roughly between hands-on learning with the horses and classroom time. So some kind of an area that we can set up as a classroom is super helpful. And I am not picky about this at all. Like it can be a garage or a living room, a barn alleyway, corner of an arena, tack room, whatever you have. But something with power, ideally, so that I can hook my PowerPoint presentation up to it.
Cool.
If there's no power, that's fine. I just need to know about it so I can print out the presentation for the students that attend.
Sounds great.
And bathroom facilities.
And bathrooms, of
Yeah,
course.
because
It's women, mostly
It's
women.
mostly women, although I have had a lot of men take the class this year.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
It's refreshing to see men actually ride more.
Well, I think they ride, but I think a lot of them think they don't need to take the class.
Right.
So
for us, it's mostly like ropers or cutters, cow horse and reiners, but the pleasure horse industry, the AQHA shows tend to be mostly women out here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hunter jumpers, all of that. Yeah. I'm in a really equestrian dense area near Sacramento. So we have several incredibly large show facilities near me.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah. So it's pretty cool. I'm definitely would like to consider hosting, I think.
Oh, I'd love to come your way. That would be lots of fun. I'm usually in California minimum of one time a year. And I see my instructor team. I do have a handful of instructors in California as well. And so, yeah, I'm usually in California at least once a year to either teach clinics or train instructors or all of the above. So,
Cool. Are you going to be in California anytime soon?
I don't have, so I came into California this spring and I don't have anything on my schedule for California at this juncture. But I have not really been booking clinics just yet for the fall. So something might pop up between now and fall.
Excellent. Okay. Do you guys have any questions? Please feel free to write it in the chat. Stacy, you're on Zoom. So if you want to unmute and turn your video on, go ahead and do so. And Martha's going to check out your website. Hello, Francesca. And Gina, I saw that your cat got killed by a coyote. I'm so sorry. I just feel horrible about that. Any questions, guys? Nothing? This was so much fun, Amber. Do you have any questions for me, Amber?
I don't right now, no.
So I'm excited. I think I would like to attend a class at least or something. My facility might be too small because I only have 2 horses here.
Only 2?
Mm-hmm.
That's okay. So generally it's nice to have a minimum of 2 horses. And so that would facilitate a 10-person clinic because that would be 5 students per horse. So, we could make that work if you wanted to. I've made a full class with 1 horse work. It might take us a little bit longer to get through the scenarios, but I personally really try not to be too much of a stickler about those things because I want to teach the classes and I want to share equine first aid with as many people as I can. So I try not to limit my hosts if I can help it.
Well, I'm super excited about what you do. I love the fact that you also do disaster control prep. I just don't think you can be prepared enough.
No, I think, it's something I teach in my classes is you should have a plan A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and just if something happens, be able to roll into your next backup plan. Because that's just life and based off of your individual situations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for your time. Dodie's saying that the signal keeps buffering. Hopefully it's on your side, Dodie, and not mine. Because I'm watching as we go too. So I'm just making sure we're meeting everybody's questions. If you guys have anything else, please put it in the chat. I'll make sure the website gets loaded so you guys can jump in if this is something you want to do or even host. And Amber, I look forward to maybe meeting you in person.
Yeah, I would love that.
And Maureen says, if we want to learn canine, how do we do that?
So if you want to learn canine, you're going to want to contact Equa First Aid USA, their website, and I can send that to you, Poppy. And then they will be able to direct you further on the canine training. And because I'm not certified in canine, I can't speak to that particular program all that much, other than I do know it's structured very similarly to the equine as far as class sizes, as well as is accompanied by PowerPoint and that kind of thing.
Excellent. Okay. And Equa, EQUI,
EQUI dash First Aid USA.
Okay. I'll grab the real link from you later and I'll just load it. And Maureen works for a burro sanctuary.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
Very cool.
She's always posting burro photos and there's one that we're all guessing when it's gonna have its baby, but it's Maureen, did it ever foal? Are we like a month behind on our muscle testing on that? I teach a muscle testing class. And so yeah, we're all trying to get the date on that. And so
Fun.
anything else? Any other crazy stories? I think that was a great story, but do you have any other first aid, like packing in the middle of nowhere and you had to use your skills?
Yes, unfortunately. Uh, so, um, one year, this was 2 years ago, my pack horse, we were crossing in kind of a narrow footbridge over a boggy area. And my riding horse was like on the bridge, halfway across the bridge. And my pack horse put her front 2 feet on the bridge. And then for whatever reason, just stepped off of the side of the bridge into the bog. And she got stuck. So every time she tried to get out of the bog, her pannier would hit the wooden bridge and it would slap her back into the bog. And I finally just ended up kind of having to wrench her out of there with making my riding horse do it. And she kind of really scratched up the whole inside of her leg from just trying to struggle out of that muddy bog scenario, which we do teach how to extricate trapped horses from scenarios like that in our advanced classes as well. So I used some of that knowledge. And then I had to use my first aid when we got into our camp location to mostly just keep bugs off of it. It was surface injury, but the flies were out in full force. And so I wrapped it for the evening. We've had a horse stumble during a river crossing, and it was a rather deep river. And so when she stumbled, the current caught her pannier and kind of flipped her over in the water. And
A pannier is your pack, correct?
yes, yep. And the panniers are usually a hard box. So it doesn't take much, for the wind to grab them or for a river current to kind of snag them and then set your horse off cattywampus. And so she probably had a very mild suspensory injury from that. And so we ended up having to lay over a couple days in that camp location to get her healed up so that we could get out of the woods. We've gotten into ground wasps before and had them sting a pack horse to the extent that we had to lay over for several days because the swelling across her back was too much to put her equipment back on. So there's usually always some kind of snag
Amber,
out
you need
there.
to learn. You need to learn homeopathy too.
So yes, I do. And we actually used plantain on the stings that was growing out there to help trying to keep the swelling down.
That's
But
cool.
yeah. So we try and integrate natural foraging for a variety of things if we need them. And we obviously with any swelling, instead of cold hosing or icing, we just end up standing in a river with a horse.
Yeah. I've actually been stuck in quicksand before with the horse and it was pretty scary. So interesting that you actually teach that.
We do. Yep.
Yeah.
And the beautiful thing about those of you located in California is you have the, large animal rescue teams. It seems like in a variety of locations in your state, but I don't, you don't have that ability when you're in the middle of the wilderness. So
Right.
kind of knowing how to do that. So as far as homeopathy, what all does that entail on your end?
We'll
Speaking
have
of,
to talk about it on another time, but it is so effective for bites, stings, puncture wounds, broken bones. Oh my gosh, it's amazing. And it's fast. It's super fast. So
nice.
yes, maybe we need to partner on this. I'll teach the homeopathic kit and you teach the first aid.
That
I
would
don't
be
know.
cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
that would be really neat.
I love the fact that you actually use some natural plants and incorporate that. Do you teach that?
So there are very small sections in both of our all-day courses where we talk about natural remedies and using essential oils for different things, honey, for varying wounds.
Great.
You know, they're kind of your standard foraging things that you might find out in the woods or have growing in your yard, and what they can be beneficial for.
That's awesome. Sorry, I keep getting bombarded by flies. I'm like, oh, gosh.
At least I can see him flying around, so it doesn't look like
I
you're
know.
crazily spotting
like,
at nothing.
I look super psycho right now. Oh, you guys, this has been fun. I hope you enjoyed it as much as we have, and that this will benefit and bless you. How much are your courses, by the way? Last question before we sign off.
Yeah, so all of the full day courses are $159 per student. I'm bring all of the first aid supplies that we use during the clinics. And that $159 is going to give each student a manual that we cover throughout the day and they take home. And then they'll also get a certificate of completion. So if they're using it for continuing education purposes, they'll have proof that they took that course.
Well, if you're in the industry, it's tax deductible.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. That's super affordable.
Yeah. And if students take an all day basic class and they follow it up with an advanced class, usually those two classes are taught a Saturday and a Sunday, then we can give them a discounted price of $295 for both days.
Cool. Very cool.
Less than a saddle pad now. But
and then you add your packing on top of that, which is amazing that you teach all of that.
Yeah.
I've never met any packers really. So I was super excited. Thank you, Amber.